You're listening to Talk of the Bay right here on K-Squid 90.7 FM and 89.7 FM, serving the Monterey Bay with local community radio. Coming up next, you might have noticed, or perhaps you didn't, that I was gone for several weeks. Well, I was in Ireland and I was teaching podcasting to a group of UC Santa Cruz students who traveled there to study travel writing and podcasting, and of course enjoy living in a small town, the town of Dingle in County Kerry, Ireland. They spent 5 weeks there exploring the culture and of course the pubs and the music and the wonderful life of a small town next to the ocean. Listeners in the Monterey Bay hopefully will find these two podcasts that we're going to play for you familiar in some ways, because one is about a farmer trying to hang on to his family farm, and the other is about fishing. And of course, some of the same issues of overfishing and quotas and sustainable fishing exist right here in California. So I hope you enjoy these podcasts. Finally, we'll have one about the pubs. Enjoy, and thanks for listening.
Livestock, dairy, and farming are central to the history and culture of Ireland. Flying into the country, vast fields of emerald green grass fill the windows. But despite how important the agricultural industry is to the nation, policies aimed at reducing Ireland's carbon emissions are putting restrictions on many farming practices. While larger farms may be able to adapt, small farms are being left behind.
I'm Kat, and I'm joined here by Raven and Keith. We are with UC Santa Cruz studying abroad in Dingle, a town in the southwestern part of the Republic of Ireland. It's a clear and sunny afternoon in the village of Lispel, just 5 miles from Dingle. Dinny Galvin spends 2 hours a day hooking his cows up to the milking machine and plenty more time tending to other tasks that being a farmer requires. His operation is small, only 60 cows, but still requires an immense amount of labor on his part.
So this is basically your milk tank. So what you have with this is, takes about 6,000 litres.
If you've ever tasted Irish dairy, you know that it is truly exceptional.
It's mostly from the grass. We get high rainfall, so we can grow quite a lot of grass. Even without chemical fertilizer, it will grow here. The grass is also naturally salty. You can see the sea. But from the sea, you'll always have the storms and the wind, and it whips the salt off the sea, and the salt comes in and naturally salts the grass as well. So that adds flavour to the milk. Just gives it an extra bit of a kick.
Dinny learned how to be a farmer from his father, who learned from his father.
When my dad passed away in 87, there was 8 dairy cows tied into that little cow byre. I had a younger sister and an older sister. All of a sudden I was the breadwinner. Either I did it or it wasn't going to be done, so I couldn't leave them by themselves.
Traditional Irish farming methods, such as the ones practiced by Dinny's grandfather and older generations, were incredibly sustainable and organic before these words were even commonly used.
Yeah, so that was an organic type of system, really, because there wasn't any chemical fertilizer. What the farmers here would have done for fertilizer was they'd have gone down to the seaside, they'd have thrown the seaweed into hoscats and drawn it and tipped it and spread it on the land. That was the fertilizer.
And what time period would this have been?
Oh, you'd be talking 50, 60 years ago. That was it, everybody was equal.
In the 1950s, however, the government began to encourage farmers to use more industrial practices to increase yields. Dinny describes being trained in these methods.
Well, yeah, okay, so there was nothing about biodiversity or sustainability at the time. Some of the land down there where the cows are, if we walk down, all that was covered in the same scrub. The area there was covered with them. So we were trained to take all that out and make the land green so the cows could eat the grass and produce milk, and you keep more cows, and that's the way we were trained. And trees, and we thought we were doing the right thing. In hindsight, we weren't. We should have left it be, and somebody should have given us a payment just to leave it be. So, it just seems that now it's gone around the full circle. So.
In the 1980s, the EU began encouraging farmers to increase livestock. in order to produce more. But now, farmers are being told that they must decrease livestock and stop many of the practices they were once encouraged to do due to concerns about the climate crisis and environmental destruction.
They're going to bring in a compensation to cut down on the cows. It'll be voluntary first, so you'll reduce the national herd. By doing that, we'll reduce our emissions, rewild the land, leave the land go back to the way it was, and that's very hard to do for somebody like me, because we were trained to be food producers. So now we're just kind of telling us that we have to go back. But I think we're going to have to, definitely. But you can't impose massive cuts on a group of people. Just sacrifice the farming communities. Not. You can do things bit by bit, small bit at a time. It will probably take longer. The argument that's against us is that we won't have a planet if we don't do this now. But again, like I say, we're only a dot on the world map compared to the States. We're not even, we're only a fraction of a state. Like we're tiny, but we are very, very green. We are very good for food producers, and I think that should stand on its own.
However, Dinny is not blind to the needs of the climate, as he understands the need to reform farming practices. He has been particularly notable for his use of sustainable electric systems. Through this, he has been able to reduce his emissions, save money, and has been working to bring these practices to other local farmers. One way that Dinny has been able to make his farm more energy efficient is the heat pump that he uses to cool his milk.
This is a water heater. It's basically electric. But what I did back in 2013, I was a small bit ahead of my time, so to speak.
Despite implementing more renewable technology around his farm, Dinny still feels that between the environmental regulations and the competition from large farms, that his small farm, and most others like it, will soon be out of business in Ireland.
I can see scarcity of food in this country within 6-7 years, because you're going to lose a generation of farmers. If you lose my young lad from the farming in 7 years' time, if we run out of food, they'll try to import food. That doesn't make sense to me, because we have the best food in the world here. But if you lose a generation of farmers, they're not going to come back to the land. It has to be inside of you. You have to be brought up with it. It's just like it's in your genes. We're all here for a purpose. I think this is mine,
In conclusion, we're seeing small family farms like Dinny's being overtaken by larger farms. Environmental regulations put in place to reduce carbon emissions have failed to take into account the position of these small farmers. Though the future is uncertain, one thing is clear. The farming industry in Ireland is changing.
I just want to know, do you know where your fish comes from? That's a customer at the Fish Box, a family-owned restaurant in Dingle, Ireland, where we, Chrissy,
Nolan,
and Eva
are spending 5 weeks exploring the local culture and history of this small seaside town. Did I mention there is always a line out the door of this tiny venue? All seems rosy, right? However, recent changes in the fishing industry have led to increased prices of our favorite fishy dishes and changes in where our fish comes from, how it's prepared, and who is preparing them. You might stop to think twice about spending a few extra for your fish, but have you thought about why you need to? Something is happening behind the scenes. Something fishy. I'm Chrissy.
I'm Nolan.
And I'm Eva.
And we are here to fish out the answers to this fishery mystery with the help of a local Dingle business focused on sustainability and quality fish.
My name is Micheál Flannery. I'm the owner of the Fish Box. I own it with my father and my brother.
Micheál founded Fishbox in 2018.
It's a small restaurant. Locals and tourists are often seen lined up and down the streets outside the bright blue building, waiting to get a taste of the award-winning fish. When you go to the fish box, you can expect to get the freshest fish available, because they catch it themselves.
The fish box started out quite small, to be honest, and just kind of evolved.
The restaurant evolved from a wholesale outlet market to an actual restaurant in response to changes in the Atlantic fishery. Because of a multitude of problems, the profitability in solely fishing was waning, leaving Michal to figure out how to keep the family business afloat.
A big thing that like my grandfather, my father always says, it's called fishing, not catching. It means that no day is ever the same, it's always different. And that's important to remember that. Just because you've one good day doesn't mean the next day is going to be good.
Michal's dad has been a commercial fisherman for the last 50 years, and the family's fishing history is much older, going back 100 years. But as the 21st century began, things began to look grim.
We were finding it very hard to find a market for our fish, and we just felt that the kind of quality of the produce that we were bringing in wasn't getting the value that it should have been getting.
And so, Michal opened the Fish Box, a family-run restaurant that catches, prepares, and serves its own fish. But while they were no longer worried about selling their fish to processors, they ran into new problems.
The problem is, in Ireland, that we just don't have enough quota.
In Ireland, the fishermen only have a certain amount of fish they can catch each month. In order to sustain their business, they have to catch all their fish in 30 days. But it's not that easy.
If you get 20 days of bad weather, you only got 10 days to catch the fish, it makes it very dangerous.
Not only dangerous, but catch quotas limit the number of fish boats are allowed to catch.
So in Ireland, like, we get a pretty raw deal with the fishing industry. I think we have a really large percentage of the waters and probably have the richest waters in Europe, and we have the minimum quotas here, which makes it really, really, really hard for the fishermen.
But these quotas aren't the same for other European countries that fish in Ireland, leading to a situation that can only be seen as unfair to the local fishermen.
There's plenty of fish, there's so much fish, there's Spanish boats, there's French boats, there's Belgian boats, there's every kind of boats fishing and harvesting maybe 5-6 times more than what we can take out of the sea, which I just think is wrong. And Ireland being a fishing nation was built on fishing and farming, I think that it should be more self-reliant on what it has.
There are other problems faced by fishermen as well. Michal tells us there's a reduction in the Irish fleet, and the boats they do have are getting old. On top of that, there's a rising cost in the fuel needed for the boats.
They just brought out a decommissioning scheme and there's been around 40 boats taken out of it, but all from the same sector, whitefish. All from whitefish. So that means there's 40 less boats supplying the restaurants this year of Ireland. It's putting the restaurants in a really sticky predicament because we're already gone up on oil, gas and electricity, but now our fish is going up.
With the rising costs of fuel and labor, the restaurant industry as a whole is dealing with higher prices that carry over to their consumers. So many people are now simply choosing to cook for themselves rather than going out and taking out a chunk of their livelihoods for these local businesses.
Michal says that the government isn't providing enough support to sustain the local trade of fishing. He proposes that the Irish government must work with the EU to increase the funding towards fishing in Ireland and help fishermen get back into full swing by increasing quotas. The first step would be by repairing or replacing old boats and giving local fishermen more power over local waters.
There's an area that we fish on, the Porcupine Bank, west, about 180 miles west of Dingle. That's our main fishing area. We can only fish there 5 months of the year. What do we do for the other 7? When we're not fishing there, there's English boats fishing there, there's Spanish boats fishing there. Why are they allowed to fish there and we're not? It's in our waters. It's wrong. It's totally wrong. So instead of us being 180 miles away from home and landing at home all the time, we're 400 miles away, landing at different ports, and these are men, like fishermen, they're coming home, they don't see their kids.
Although fishing was perhaps even more dangerous with smaller boats, the traditional Irish fishing practices were more sustainable.
Today, it's not just the weather fishermen are worried about, but also the law.
A few months ago, the fishermen with the restaurant had a run-in with the law. They had been in waters designated for prawn fishing, where the cutoff day was November 1st. While there, they made the decision that after prawn season was over, they would swap to bigger nets to catch whitefish. They called the proper authorities who granted them permission, as long as their yield of prawns was less than 5%. While fishing, they were flagged down, searched, and detained by the Navy, despite their catch yielding only 3%. They were held for several days without a charge until the final day, where they came up with a charge that Michal says most people consider to be made up. With this charge, their boat is now frequently stopped by authorities, impeding their ability to catch fish.
I just think that they criminalise it a lot. So, just for an example now, I think there's 9 fishery patrol officers in Dingle, and there is 6 boats, which is just crazy. It's just really hard to make ends meet at the moment with it, between weather and just everything. It's tough gig. This isn't 50 years ago. All of the men now are qualified people. They all have high skipper's tickets, they all have education, they're intelligent men, they should know what's going on. I think at the moment the fishing is actually on the fence, and I think it's nearly at the point of no return, where it's going to be too far for them to come back. And if they lose it, they're in serious trouble because they'll never get it back. I don't know what's going to happen. It'll be interesting to see, does our quota increase? Because if it doesn't, there's something very wrong, and it'll be there for the world to see. So I hope they do something.
Still, tourists and locals alike line up for a chance to taste the Fish Box's fish, ranking the restaurant high on the travel guide's best places to eat. The Flannerys plan on expanding the number of seats to 100, so although things seem dire, they are still planning for a future that includes fresh, locally caught fish, from sea to plate in a few difficult steps.
Dingle, Ireland in County Kerry has a resident population of around 2,000 and over 30 pubs. If you read a travel website or tourist book, you'll find that Dingle is one of the biggest towns for pubs in all of Ireland. In this podcast, we'll take a look at 2 of the popular pubs, Kennedy's and the Dingle pub. They are ranked as 2 of the top 5 pubs in Dingle.
Despite the popularity of the Dingle pub, there is some belief in the community that this pub is a tourist pub and not authentic. After conversing with locals, we found that many of them claim that another pub by the name of Kennedy's is their favorite.
To see if these claims have any reality to them, we interviewed locals, tourists, and workers at these 2 pubs. It's hard to separate Ireland and pub culture, but do each of these pubs give a true experience of Ireland if you are a tourist coming here for a few weeks?
This is Ainsley,
Consuelo Mendoza,
and Jason Mack. And we want to find out if tourists experience the true representation of Irish pub culture by visiting the Dingle pub and Kennedy's in Dingle, Ireland.
It's 9 o'clock at the Dingle pub, and David Guinea has hit the small wooden stage. At 6 feet tall, David makes a commanding figure wearing black pants and tap shoes. Dozens of people circle the stage, waiting for their turn to learn an Irish step dance or 2, holding the mic, cheering on his guests, while playfully mocking their attempts to be Irish dancers.
David's picture is plastered on the marquee outside the pub. Regarded as the 5-time world champion of Irish dancing, David is even a semi-finalist on Britain's Got Talent.
The malty smell of freshly poured Guinness hits you like a smack on the face as you enter the Dingle pub. Booming laughter can be heard from across the bar and into the restaurant as customers flood in for a pint and a bite.
Oh man, you're making me want to grab a Guinness right now. So what do you guys think makes the Dingle pub stand out from the other pubs that draw customers in, considering we're also tourists here?
I would say the posters of the local Irish dancer on the outside caught my eye. Who wouldn't want to see a famous Broadway Irish dancer who won 5 world champions?
Oh yeah, that guy's a really good dancer. I would say that having him there is what makes the Dingle pub stand out from other pubs here.
I agree. As someone who grew up here in Dingle, David Guinea spends his nights not only working behind the bar, but also performing Irish dance 6 to 7 nights a week. He spends about 6 to 8 months working here in Dingle. Once his dance season starts, he travels all over the world to compete.
He invites people up to dance with him and teaches those that are curious to learn. We got a chance to ask him what he thinks draws people into the Dingle pub.
And I think, first of all, the outside of the pub is everything as Irish as you could think of. If you never saw a picture of Ireland before and then the first thing you saw was this, it is the image of Ireland. There's shamrocks all over it, it's green, white, there's flags of Ireland hanging outside the door and all that. So yeah, I think first of all, the look of the place. I think when you come in, it's very authentic Irish. There's nothing cheesy about it. It is what it is. Obviously, we put a lot of effort into entertainment with 2 bands every day. They always play Irish music. We never have DJs. We never have pre-recorded soundtracks and stuff like that. Even the background music that's played all day is always Irish music. So I think we always put an emphasis on Irish entertainment. Then obviously I do the dancing at night time, which adds another dynamic to it.
Ah, yes, the music there is just amazing. I love being able to hear traditional Irish music, especially when it's not the same tune on repeat over and over. They also have the cutest posters covering their walls inside. I had to grab a couple of pictures when I went into that pub for the first time.
They also have their bands playing more well-known pop songs at night to make it easier for everyone to sing along. I got to talk to a tourist about their experience at the Dingle pub. Henry Blanchett is a 30-year-old from Boston who came here on a trip with his father.
Been to the Dingle pub probably 4 times out of my 7 days here. I loved it. There's a lot of music available to you. Someone with a eccentric musical taste will definitely find it to their favor. I got to scream the lyrics to "I'll Tell Me Ma" with a person who looked like they were 5 years my junior and a guy that looked like he could probably be my great-grandfather. But he knew the lyrics, they knew the lyrics, I knew the lyrics. It's all about, getting in what you got out.
The music does a good job at appealing to tourists then.
Yeah, you can hear the music from the street and it really draws you in.
Well, he did like the music and overall experience at the Dingle pub. I remember he didn't really like how inconvenient it was to order a drink.
You walk in, you have to walk around the bullshit corner, you have to walk down the bar, and then you have to get the bartender's attention.
I mean, that definitely comes with every busy bar. You would find that issue at some of the other pubs in town as well.
I would say the other bar in focus, Kennedy's, has some great music as well. They have open sessions every Tuesday where anyone can grab their guitar to sing.
I went to one of the open sessions and it was really nice to see people just having a jam with the community. There were people of all different ages either learning to play an instrument or showing off their skills.
Walking into Kennedy's, you are greeted by candlelight flickering from the tables. It is easy to pick up a conversation with either the regulars or bartenders. There are side rooms, which in Ireland they call snugs, that customers can file into for a more personal experience with their lads. Every Tuesday starting at 8 p.m., anyone is free to sing a song they enjoy in the circle of instruments. This is found in the main room, right at the entrance of the pub.
Their snugs are so cozy. If you don't have luck finding one inside, there's even a tabled outdoor area covered in greenery and kegs.
I remember being a little intimidated walking by Kennedy's for the first time, but once I walked in, I was so glad I did.
The bar is a lot larger, but you also have the bartenders are a lot more attentive of tourists, and they can spot a tourist from miles. So if they see you when you walk in, they'll definitely usher you over, say, "Are you okay? Are you looking for anything?" And I think that's what kind of sets Kennedy's apart. Is they're definitely more welcoming rather than Dingle pub.
Good customer service does go a long way when you're in a new place. The bartenders there have all been really nice and easy to order from.
I definitely agree with Jason and Henry on that. You don't really have to fight your way to the front to get a drink at Kennedy's.
Bartender Dominique Amon has been living in County Kerry for 7 years and working at Kennedy's for about 5. She gave us some insight into the history of Kennedy's and their open sessions.
It is an original house/pub since the 1930s and it hasn't been changed at all. So it's family owned still. Same things are exactly the way they were back then when it was originally a pub/grocers, like Our regulars come in and they're like, oh, I used to come in here getting ice creams and different things, and they're in their 70s, so it's like, oh, that's so cute. The aesthetics are amazing. We don't use light bulbs, we just use candlelight, and so that's our light, and it takes about an hour to light up the gaff, the shop, the ship, whatever you want to call it, the bar. Turning on all the candles individually. Open sessions are awesome, run by Harkin and Kelly. They're such a sweet couple, and Harkin teaches guitar. So they're so good at curating a really nice atmosphere and making everybody feel very comfortable, whether they're regulars who come back every week to play from... did you see the little guy playing today? I think he's about 5 or 6. So we have from 5 or 6 year olds to whatever age. And so the younger or the shyer or the less confident people come earlier on in the night, so they get a chance to play. And it slowly progresses from there until full-blown madness at 11:30, like 10 guitars in a room, everybody singing. So it's like a storm in a teapot, if you've ever heard that.
Wow, I did not know that most of the pub has been the same since the 1930s. Pretty historical pub with a more relaxed atmosphere.
They also have a cat that hangs out on the windowsill inside.
Oh yeah, I've seen it. You should be a little careful getting too close though. It's a bit feisty. Not afraid to pack a punch if it doesn't like you.
You definitely wouldn't see that sort of thing in America.
Oh, no way.
Henry Blanchett had put a lot of thought into the culture of Ireland, and even after we finished our interview with him, we kept talking with him about his thoughts on the cultural differences between Dingle and the US.
In Ireland, it's much different. It's more a cultural almost ticket that you have in your pocket rather than in America or the States, where like if you look underage in any type of police or people look at you like you're underage drinking. But here it's less so about the concept of drinking and more so about the social aspects, about grabbing a Guinness.
I've really noticed how drinking in pubs here are just a source of community. A lot of people use pubs as a way to get people together to hang out.
Yeah, most people will only have a drink or two at a lot of the pubs. The drinking isn't always the main focus.
A lot of people still do go out to get really drunk, though. That just isn't the only reason to go out pubbing.
Yeah, Henry did have this to say about Dingle.
I was told the true Dingle experience was to throw up off the pier. I didn't do that, so I guess I may have missed the true Dingle experience.
I guess that's what the word is. Although we can't go to bars in America due to our age, it's safe to say that we all had a blast here in the Dingle pubs.
Despite the Dingle pub and Kennedy's being two pubs in the same small town on the same block, they both get pretty busy with similar people.
I can second that. I know for me it depends on my mood and which pub would correlate with it.
Both pubs show an authentic and interesting side of Irish culture, just different vibes. When walking down Main Street in Dingle, there are many pubs to choose from. I recommend giving at least these two pubs a try if you're looking for a true Irish pub experience.
All the other pubs in Dingle have a unique and special touch to them, so hopefully you find yourself at as many as you can.
This was Ainsley,
Jason,
and Consuelo, and thank you for listening to our podcast.
You've been listening to 3 stories from my students in UC Santa Cruz's podcasting class in Ireland. These were made just last month, and I'm very proud that my students managed to produce these after never having done a podcast in their lives. We hope you hear these voices again soon, and I want to thank you so much for tuning in to Talk of the Bay. I'm Rachel Ann Goodman.